I'm gonna do little globs of red over on this hill in the front, and these are poppies. So I like to hold my brush sideways, and I want them to be as random as possible, right? This isn't planted, this isn't like a perfectly planted garden. This is just nature, just poppies growing in nature. Hello everyone, today we're going to be painting Tuscan hills. This is a very quick and easy painting. Even if you've never painted before, this is the great one to try out for your first painting. You're going to learn how to create a lot of texture and a lot of detail with a bristle brush, and it happens kind of very quickly. So it's kind of a fun technique to try out. Let's go over our materials. So I'm going to be using a jar of water. Today I'm just going to use canvas pad, and this is size 9 by 12 inches, but in the past I normally would have done this painting on like a 16 by 20. That might be a little bit easier for you. It depends on if you like working big or small. And then all you're going to need is just a little detailed brush, so like a size 0 pointed round. And then depending on the size of your canvas, you're going to need a square brush and a bristle round brush. So if you're going really small, maybe a small, like this is an 1/8 inch flat brush, and this is a 1/2 inch flat. And then I've got bristle round, and this is a size 10, this is a size 12. Probably a size 10 in the smallest, because you kind of are trying to cover a lot of area with that. The paints I'm going to be using today are the acrylics. And the colors we're using are titanium white, which is just any white paint, chrome yellow, which would be a cadmium yellow light if you were using Liquitex Basics, a deep yellow, which would be a cadmium yellow deep, and then a bright red, which is, you can go any kind of darker red with that one. And then we have phthalo blue or phthalo green, and then black. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take our bristle brush and dip it in our water, and this brush holds so much water. So you're going to take your hand, and when you're finished cleaning this brush, you're going to squeeze the extra water out with your hand. If you don't, it gets really soppy and messy. It can kind of make your paper towel all wet if you try to dry it off on your paper towel. So I'm going to take this brush, and I'm going to first go in with some of the brighter yellow that I have here, and I'm going to do a horizon line. So I'm going to eyeball about halfway on the canvas, and if it helps you, you can kind of make a little mark there. And then I'm going to eyeball halfway between the half, so a quarter of the way down the canvas, and that's where I'm going to put my horizon line. So I'm just brushing across there with the yellow. And now I'm going to go ahead and block in my hills. So with the same yellow on my brush here, my first hill is going to start off right here on the horizon line. So I'm going to brush down, and then this is already the second hill there. Now I'm going to come over here about halfway down, and this one I'm going to have go up and then down. And then I'm going to come over to this side, same thing, kind of up. And this is your painting, so your hills can really wave in any way that you like them. I'm going to come over here. And this is about a quarter of the way up the canvas. And I'm going to go up and then across. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hills. So now I'm going to start filling in the sky here. So the first thing I'm going to do, same brush, same color, and I'm going to use horizontal brush strokes, and I'm kind of going back and forth, and I'm going to fill this in. So first I'm going to go with this brighter yellow, and I'm doing horizontal back and forth kind of short brush strokes. This is where my sun is going to go. Now without cleaning my brush, I'm going to go in with the darker yellow, and I'm going to go around the sides of that, what I just did. And then the last thing I'm gonna do, if there's a ton of paint on your brush, you can wipe it off on the side, is I'm gonna go in with red, and I'm gonna come along the edges here. Not too much with the red. The red could easily take the whole painting over, and I'm not trying to do that. And then I can do a little bit on the bottom here too. Now I'm gonna take my brush, wipe it off, clean it out in my water, squeeze it with my other hand, dab it on my paper towel, and I'm gonna come in with white, and I'm gonna go right here in the center that I left open with white. I'm just kind of scrubbing it in there. And now I'm gonna use a different brush stroke. So we use that brush stroke to kind of fill it in. Now I'm lightly, barely touching the canvas. The handle of my brush is perpendicular to the canvas. And I'm starting to brush into the yellow. I'm not gonna clean my brush out, and I'm gonna start working over to the sides. My brush stroke over here, it's going from left to right. I'm brushing towards the center. Now over here, I'm gonna go from right to left, and I'm gonna flick my brush over. And on the bottom, I'm gonna go all the way across. And from there, you can kind of stop and see what you think. Maybe you're a very bright person, you want it to be even brighter. Maybe you really love red. You could add some more red to the sides here to make it even darker. You really can't go wrong with these colors. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more white. In the middle, and then a little bit more yellow on the sides. And then I'm kind of brushing back and forth. Come in with a little more white. Yeah, the thing about my white here is that I didn't shake it up enough and it kind of spilled out. And so it's blending, it's very transparent, so it's kind of just blending into the yellow. So I'm gonna come in there with more white again. So if I continue to brush over this over and over again, eventually I'm gonna have just one color, one kind of light orange. So I don't wanna do that, but I do want mine pretty blended. That's about where I want it, I think, for this one today. All right, so now we can go ahead and start filling in our hills. So we're gonna start at the top and work our way down, and we're basically going to use this color palette to make a lot of different colored hills. So my first hill is gonna be this one right here, and this hill is gonna be mainly red. So I'm gonna take my brush, clean it out to get a fresh start there. And I'm gonna take white, which hopefully this white works out for me without any of its pigment, and yellow. And I'm gonna use this brush like a stamp. So when we're drawing, we kind of just drag it along, but you can also use this brush and you can kind of tap it over and over again. And now you can practice with your brush on the side. If you scrub your brush in a circle, you look at it, you're gonna see how the bristles are all fanned out, and that will make lots of little small marks. Now I definitely want kind of a drier brush for this technique. So you really gotta make sure you get the extra water out. And I'm gonna start with the yellow and the white, and I'm gonna stamp along the top of the hill. And I'm going right over my horizon. And I'm gonna wipe my brush. I'm gonna come in here with the red. And I'm gonna stamp the rest of the hill in with the red. So before I go in and add my shadow, I'm gonna stamp right up to this edge here with the yellow. And now to create a little shadow, I don't need to clean my brush out. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of the green. And I'm stamping at the bottom here. And you'll notice, depending on how you hold your brush, you could get a hard line, a hard edge at the top of your brush stroke and then very fuzzy at the bottom. But if I hold my brush more perpendicular, it's fuzzy all the way around. Now I tilt the handle towards myself, I get a harder edge at the top. So you want the harder edge to be at the top of your hill. Down here, I don't want a hard edge, so I'm not going for a graphic style, I'm trying to get it more blended. Up close, these are just gonna look like little dots of paint, but from far away, it can look like grass. It can look like more of the texture of the hill. So once you get it to where you would like it, you can move on to the next hill. This one's gonna be a little bit more green. I can go ahead and take my brush. If there's any extra kind of dark paint, I can add that to the bottom there. And then I'm gonna clean my brush out. Really make sure I squeeze out the water and get it nice and dry. All right, so I'm going to mix up some white with some pale yellow and a teeny dab of green. You can make a lighter green. You can come in and fill in the top, and you can start stamping whenever you're ready there. And now I'm going to take my red and my green, more green than red. I'm going to come to the bottom here and start stamping that. I'm gonna clean my brush out here to make sure that I get any extra white out. And I'm gonna mix, just to make it a little more neutral, I'm gonna mix yellow with a little bit of black. Yellow and black makes a really great green. Because this is, I like these colors, but I want it a little bit more neutral, and I want it a little bit darker down here. So this is kind of more of an olive, kind of army green. And now I'm not adding more paint in, but I'm just stamping my way up. And now I'm going to clean my brush out again. And now I'm going to take some white and a little bit of my deep yellow. Mix that a little bit. There we go. And I'm actually going to stamp over this hill one more time here, now that I have some fresher white. My red's a little bit wet there. I might have to come in and add some more to that later. So now I'm just gonna dip in the yellow, dip in the red, and I'm gonna go along this top edge here. And now I'm tilting the handle of my brush towards myself a little bit so that I get a cleaner edge. I'm gonna do a little bit of both yellows. And now I'm gonna start to brush, well, tapping my brush down. So if at any point it looks like you have kind of lines of color and you want it to be more blended, just kind of keep stamping up and down until they kind of blend in. All right, so now I'm gonna wipe my brush off. That's just gonna keep my water cleaner longer. And my next hill is gonna be my kind of vibrant green hill. So I'm gonna start off with just yellow, my deep yellow. And I cannot stress it enough, you guys, not too much water. You don't want your paint to be kind of loose and watery. And now I'm gonna just wipe my brush on the side. I'm gonna take some white and I'm just gonna stamp it along the edge there. And I'm picking up yellow along the way, and that's great. And I'm going right over the edge of that hill that I just did. And now I'm gonna go in, let's wipe my brush out, clean my brush out and wipe it off. And I'm gonna take just green to start off with. I'm not gonna add more. I'm gonna go all the way up without adding more. So you can see how it's starting to turn kind of this light, bright green. Very lightly tapping. And if you decide you want more yellow, either yellow, you can just dip in it. and go right over the top. I'm gonna wipe my brush off. I'm not gonna clean it out, just wiping it off. And now I'm gonna come to the bottom here with some of my red and green mixed together. Makes this is like my favorite color. A very deep purple. It's my favorite color in paints, that is, not my favorite color. But close. I'm gonna check your guys' glare and see how it's doing. Not too bad. If you're not sure how something is looking, definitely take a step back and look at it from far away, or take a picture of it on your phone and step back and look at it, because then you're gonna see more clearly. So when I just looked at this on the screen, I could see that there was like half dark, half light, and I could see that I needed to blend those in more. So we're trying to make these hills look curved, and we're creating that illusion by going dark to light at the top. All right, our next hill is going to be kind of a lighter hill. So let's go ahead and clean our brush out. And we're gonna let's start with white and our bright yellow. And let's start at the top here. Filling it in. It's so hard for this brush not to hold too much water. It still seems a little bit watery. And now I'm gonna use my red-green mixture here, and I'm just gonna tap in it, not get too much. I'm gonna go to the bottom here. And I'm working my way up. So it's kind of like a light yellow, grayish hill there. So now I want to take the same light yellow, but I don't need to clean my brush out. I can just go right in there again with the yellow and the white. And I'm gonna do the top half of this hill. And now I think I'll add some of this lighter green in here. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. Yeah, I like that color. And now I'm going to clean my brush out. And I'm going to come in with red. I'm going to work my way up here, tapping lightly, I'm running out of paint as I work my way up. So I can lightly tap, and I'm going to try to make it a little more uneven, a little more variety. I'm going to come in again. Down here with more of the red. We're going to be adding some bright red flowers over here. And now before I move on, I'm going to take some of my green, come down here to make it even a little bit darker. And now I'm going to clean this brush out in my water. Squeeze it out, get it nice and dry. And we're going to do one last highlight on each of these hills. So I'm going to take my flat brush, get it wet, make sure it's nice and flat. I'm going to take white paint and I'm going to use the edge of my brush. This brush can be used in two ways. We can use the edge to make a really thin line, the flat part to make a thick line, but even if I'm using the edge, if I press down really hard, I'll still make a thick line. So I'm trying to use the edge but not press down very hard. And I'm gonna just trace over. And I've got some kind of thick paint here. And it's kind of up to you how much you want it to stick out. Now you could leave it like that with the harsh edges, or now that you've done that, you can take your brush, and I'm gonna make sure my handle's towards my body, and I'm gonna lightly tap over the edge. And if you pick up any paint, wipe it off. I'm gonna leave a hard edge in some areas, like some little bright white highlights, and then in other areas, I'm gonna blend it in so it really softens up. And notice I'm starting at the top and working my way down. So I'm gonna go back through one more time on some of these hills just to make them stand out a little bit more. So I'm gonna take yellow and white and my square brush using the edge, especially this one just keeps turning a little too pink. I just want it to be more white, more yellow. Up here at the top. And you can also even use the edge of, like I have a little glob of paint right here. I'm just going to use the edge of my flat brush just to blend that in a little bit more. Same thing, white and yellow. just gonna set that on the side for a second here. I'm gonna make sure my brush is really dry. I'm gonna stamp over this top edge again. There we go, that's more the color that I want for the top of this hill. It is a peachy hill, but the red, you'll see red is such a powerful paint. It can take anything over. So you gotta use it very sparingly. And actually of all the colors on the color wheel, red is the most noticeable. So your eyes are always gonna go to where there's red. Tip over this one more time. Getting a nice kind of fuzzy edge. And I did not tape down my canvas, which I now know was a bad idea. That's okay, we're just gonna run with that. All right, so I thought I might need this again, but I think we are good to go. So I'm gonna drop that one off in my water for right now. So before I move on to the next step, I want to make sure my sky is really where I want it. And I'm going to add a little bit more white back into here. I'm not going to reshoot this video just because of this. But honestly, my white that I squirted out there was just not where I wanted it. Kind of less paint is more when you're up here. I'm gonna take yellow. I might need just a little bit more of the yellow. It's just like we were talking about with the red before. It's that same thing up here. A little bit of color, it goes a long way when it's up against white. And if your white is not a good quality white paint, and Acrylics is a really good quality. That's just kind of an old bottle and I hadn't touched it in a while because I've been mainly using my Liquitex Basics. And so it just got a little separated. I'm gonna take some pure white and add it right here in the middle of this so that it really kind of stands out. Like we want the illusion of the sun without actually having the sun in there. I'm doing short horizontal brush strokes. And honestly, I'm just being a little bit of a perfectionist right now. I probably don't need to be doing this, but it's fun to play around with these colors anyway. I actually really like this side. And this side, I just want to come in again with a little more red. I'm gonna get the teeny tiniest bit of water to help blend it a little bit. gonna lighten it up just a little bit up there too. There we go. I kind of like the way that looks. And notice I don't have kind of a chunk on the side of red. The red is 2 inches over here, it's 3 inches over here, it's 3 inches up here, and then it's an inch down here. So I'm kind of making my red a little bit jagged, not zigzag, right? It's not long, short, it's jagged. It's long, it's short, it's medium, it's kind of all over the place there. All right. Gosh, by the time I'm done making all these videos, I'm gonna have really funny like catchphrases like, alrighty. I keep finding myself saying funny things. The next thing I'm gonna do is clean out my flat brush. And while this is all drying just a little bit, I'm gonna come in and do 2 little kind of Tuscan houses up there. And I'm gonna show you on the side a little bit larger first so you can really see what we're doing here. So here is an example of our hill over on this side there. So I'm going to show you a lot larger than what we're actually trying to do. I'm going to have a white square, and then next to it a shorter white rectangle. And then on top of that, we're gonna place 2 red rooftops. So a red triangle, and these are really far away so you can barely see them, so the detail doesn't need to be exact. And then a wider red roof on this one. And then I'm gonna fill those in. And obviously it's turning pink, which you can have a pink rooftop if you want. And now we're not going to draw these lines in, but I'm going to draw them on here for you to see, because I know it's white paint. It might be hard to see. And don't worry about this edge down here because we're going to paint over that in a little bit. So you can take either your small square flat brush or your medium one, depending on the size of your canvas and depending on how big you want your little houses to be. I'm going to take straight white paint. I'm going to come right to the edge here. And if it blends in a little bit with whatever I have on the canvas, that's okay. It doesn't need to be pure white. And I'm going to paint my white. Clean my brush out. I'm going to take plain red. You can also use your detail brush. You can also mix in a little bit of green. I'm trying not to touch the white so that I don't have pink rooftops, but you can always come in and darken them. Yep, touch the white. There goes my pink. My cute pink rooftops. And notice how my triangles are really wide. I'm trying to make really wide triangles there. So while those are drying, we're gonna come in and add some trees. So again, it depends on how big your canvas is. I'm gonna start off with just my larger 1/2 inch flat, and I'm gonna take green, red, and black and mix those together. And for these trees, we're going to use the edge of our brush. You may find you like to work from top to bottom, or you may find you like to work from bottom up. I'm going to go top to bottom. So at first, my brush is completely perpendicular, not pressing down very hard. So I get a nice skinny top. And then I'm going to kind of wiggle my brush as I go down. And as I go down, I'm going to start to press down harder and harder. And then when we get to the bottom of the tree, you can use the edge of your brush and you can just stamp a teeny little tree trunk, okay? And if your brush gets too loaded with paint, it'll start to make really big brush strokes, and then you can clean it out in your water if you need to. So I'm gonna have 4 trees over here. So I'm gonna start up here in my sky, about halfway down my sky. I'm working my way down. I'm gonna start to wiggle my brush just a little bit. I may pick up some wet paint, that's fine by me. And for this brush and this technique, you can mix a little bit of water in with your paint too, just to help you get some nice kind of clear lines. Now for my next one, I want this one to be a little bit shorter, so I'll go down about 1 inch, and I'm going to the left right next to it. And then this one's going to be a little bit taller, so go over a little bit, but a little bit taller. And this is what I get for not painting up on an easel. I just like the way the videos look better when it's flat, but painting like this is a little challenging sometimes. I'm gonna go over that one more time. I'm really testing my sense of balance and gravity here. And now I'm gonna do one more. For some reason in like Tuscan type paintings, I like to have 4. Not sure why that is. So it's gonna be my tallest one, so I'm gonna go up even a little bit higher. It's gonna be my big tree. And now I can stamp a little trunk on each of those. And you can get kind of painterly with this painting. It doesn't need to be perfect. If any of the tops of your trees got too thick, you could take your detail brush, you could rest your hand on the side, or you could go up even a little bit higher. Or if you wanted a little extra wiggle up there. And honestly, trying to hold your brush over, if you're not familiar with that and your body's not used to it, that'll help you kind of make the jagged brush stroke that you need for those trees. So now for these, we're going to do a little bit of a shadow, and you can use your detail brush or you can use your flat brush. And if you picked up some white and your dark green started to get lighter with the white, you could just add some more black, some more green on it. So my shadow is going to go in this direction. So I'm first going to just use the edge of my brush, and I'm going to do lines that are just going right off the edge of the canvas here. This one's going to kind of go right to this bottom corner. And now I'm actually going to switch to my detail brush, or you could use a small square brush if you had it. And so for this first part, it's the shadow of the trunk, right? So it should look like the mirror image of your trunk, but going to the side. And the trunk should be really dark. Be careful with these detail brushes though, because they can hold water that you didn't realize was there, and then all of a sudden it just kind of pops out. And now, so that's about 1 centimeter, and I'm gonna go 1 centimeter down, and I'm gonna make it to look like the tree. And now, while I have this detail brush, I'm gonna add some in front of these little houses. You wanna make sure the houses are the way you want them. So if you need to add in more red, if yours turned pink, I'm just gonna do one quick little layer of red over it. And now I'm gonna come in with my green mixture and my detail brush, and I'm gonna add the same kind of trees, but they're far off in the distance in front of these little houses. So my first one is gonna go just off center from the top of my house on the left. And I'm just gonna wiggle my brush down. And my next one's gonna go kind of right in between the two. And my last one's gonna go right through the middle of this little short one. And then I'm gonna take my green here, and I'm just gonna kind of dab it along the front of these two houses. So they have some bushes planted around their houses there. The next thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna add some definition to this hill. Now, we're gonna kind of do rows, like rows of a field. So you may find that this is way easier for you with your flat brush, or you may find that you really like the detail brush. Because the detail brush barely holds any paint, I don't prefer to use it, right? Because if I'm using my detail brush, then I kind of like run out of paint as I go, unless there's a lot of water to keep it going. But here's the idea. So we're gonna say this is that same hill up there. So it's all gonna be about the direction of our lines. So I suggest starting in the middle of your hill, and right there, you can do a line that's basically going straight down. Now every line that goes to the left of that is gonna curve. See how it runs out of paint? That's why I don't prefer the small detail brush. Every line to the left of that is gonna curve to the left. So they're starting close together, and then they're curving out. And then every line over here is gonna slightly curve to the right, starting close together, going far apart, starting close together, going far apart, starting close together, going far apart. Then we're gonna take this brush and we're gonna tap over it. So my handle of my brush is not perpendicular per se, because that's gonna take a little bit longer, but it's aiming a little bit towards the canvas, and I'm just softening these lines. And you'll continue to do that. So I've got my green, my red, and my black mixed together. And now I'm gonna find roughly the center of this hill here. Use the edge of my brush, go down. And now I'm going to the left, and I'm kind of curving towards the left and down, towards the left and down, towards the left, down. It's kind of like a pumpkin. And then to the right and down, to the right and down. And now I can take my paint, and I'm going to start stamping at the bottom and work my way up. Grab more paint, start at the bottom. It should be thicker at the bottom and get thinner and run out of paint as you get towards the top. Honestly, I would turn my canvas right now because this is kind of like a weird angle for my hand. So if you're able to just turn your canvas, you can. I can already tell editing this video is going to be challenging because I'm almost positive that this is sideways right now, and I don't want you guys to have to watch a sideways painting. And I guess I could have mentioned before, don't use your favorite flat brush because this kind of messes with the bristles a little bit with the hairs of your brush. So you could leave it just like that. You could go in with your bristle brush with nothing on it, just kind of fluffy. Could lightly tap over it just to create just a couple of random marks. Let's say you did it and it ended up too much. It just looked too dark to you, something like that. Then you could come in and you could do the same technique going the opposite direction, right? So I could take pale yellow and I can stamp in between. So I'm using my 1/2 inch flat, white and yellow. And it's kind of just making it look like the sun sort of hit up here. And it's kind of redefining the different rows. And like I've said before in videos, it's all about kind of the push and the pull in painting. So you push it forward and then you bring it back. now with my 1/2" flat brush, I'm gonna do a big tree over here. So I'm gonna use the edge of my brush. I'm gonna come up about halfway down my top hill right here, and about 1" in from the side. And I want it skinny at the top. It's gonna get wider as it goes down. Using the flat side of my brush down here. I'm going to use this stamping technique to just kind of stamp a little edge down here. And now, the last step, I'm going to clean out my 1/2" flat, and I'm going to take red, globs of red, and I'm going to do little globs. Whoa, that's a very big glob. I'm going to do little globs of red over on this hill in the front, and these are poppies. So I like to hold my brush sideways, and I want them to be as random as possible, right? This isn't planted, this isn't like a perfectly planted garden. This is just nature, just poppies growing in nature. Maybe there's a little cluster with some big, some small. Maybe some over here, maybe some are overlapping. My brush had a little bit of water in it. And now this is just honestly a little too big here for my taste. You could go for it if you wanted to, that big. Down here, I can really just kind of add them wherever. Especially if you wanted it to look a little more detailed. Over here, you could do a little dab of black in the center of some of the ones in the foreground. Make it a little more poppy-like. And this painting is kind of all about illusions. Up close, you're just going to see a bunch of random brush strokes. It's from far away that you'll really see the Tuscan hills that we're creating here. I'm gonna come back in and just get a few more little bushes in front of my little, these are my vacation homes here in Italy. This is a vision board now. This has turned into a vision board class. This is where we go to vacation. We've got little pastures with goats. You could add some highlights onto your little tree shadows there if you want. You could add highlights onto any of your hills if you wanted them to stand out more. You could always stamp over them again if you wanted to change the colors. It's kind of up to you. And that is about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I want to add here, but I think I kind of like it right where it's at. I want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos. I love to create these for you guys. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments. And I hope that you enjoyed making this painting with me today. I hope that you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.